Hi, I'm Kerry. Welcome to the channel, and if you're a regular viewer, welcome back to the channel. It is the, let me just check the date here, 24th of July 2022. We're in the middle of winter here in Christchurch, New Zealand. It's been a very wet and rainy winter, more rain this couple of weeks than we usually get in the entire month of July, and it looks like more is on the way. Now, so what do you do when it's wet outside? You can read. And I was listening to the ever excellent Backlisted podcast. I know it's a UK podcast where they talk about and review and discuss a book that's out of print that you have to actually go actively look for. And as part of this show, they each discuss what they've been reading lately. And one of the panelists discussed a book called Red Sauce, Brown Sauce. I thought that sounded really interesting, so I went and looked it up and found it was only available in hardcover in a physical form, and that would, take several weeks to get to me, and I'm not sure I wanted a hardcover version of it anyway. So the other alternative was to go onto the old Amazon and get the Kindle version. So here it is, Red Sauce, Brown Sauce by Felicity Cloake. Now this book was a bit of the kind of a tonic I needed at the time when I read it. It's nothing earth-shattering or deeply important. The basic story of it is Felicity Cloake is a food writer, and she also happens to be a bit of a cycling enthusiast. And a few years back, she wrote a book called One More Croissant for the Road, where she travelled around France on a cycle and ate the local food and visited the locals and saw the local traditions. Now, she's wondering how she can follow that up, and here's an idea of travelling around the UK nations in a similar way and investigating breakfast traditions and breakfast foods and so on. And it's about 2020 when she intends to do this, and of course our old friend the pandemic came along and put her off. So she had to wait until things were loosened up again in 2021, and so she sets off on her bicycle to travel around the UK, basically. And she's joined in very many leagues by friends and family who help her along. And she's also assisted by the mainly good-natured local people wherever she goes. Now, she, as well as visiting various cafes and greasy spoon restaurants and fast food joints, she actually visits the factories and premises where many of the food items that we associate with breakfast are being created. She learns about their histories. We get given little potted histories of various items and how they were introduced and where they came from. And also she rounds out each chapter with one or two recipes about how to create versions of these foods yourself. I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, it's nothing amazing. It's just good-natured fun, information that you may not know, and it's written with a great sense of humour and joy. It was just what I needed when I was coming off the COVID experience, and I read the 2 or 3 chapters per night on the Kindle, and it put me in a really good mood to go to sleep, and I'd spend the next day anticipating getting back into this book. So if a book can be rated highly because of that type of thing, this book is rated highly by me. So along the way, we also learn about the various traditional foods in various areas of the UK, the various puddings like white pudding, hog pudding, black pudding, all that type of thing then. And of course, we associate pudding with like a dessert these days, but it's a very different meaning, these old foods. And there's things like haggis and kippers. And she visits these various places that are still producing these foods and finds they've had a very mixed experience in the last few years. Many of them, the sales actually went up during the pandemic because of people were getting online and ordering these things for trendy breakfasts and following trends that they've seen. And people were making big orders, but now things have loosened up a bit again. Many of these firms are facing bankruptcy because even the locals where they live aren't buying these traditional foods anymore. So anyway, she investigates this, tries a lot of the food, and yeah, like I said, it's just an enjoyable read. She has a great sense of humour, and she has quite a bit of a calamity early on and injures herself, so that slows down the pace a bit for her. And Yeah, and as for the title, red sauce, brown sauce, at the end of each chapter, she like polls the people she's spoken to during that chapter, see if they prefer red sauce, you know, ketchup, tomato sauce, whatever you call it locally, or brown sauce, which is things like the old traditional HP sauce, usually made with like tamarind and other ingredients for a different flavour than the ketchup. Ends up fairly interesting reading what these people say about that. It's kind of split evenly in the end. And anyway, so so that is Red Sauce, Brown Sauce by Felicity Cloake. I have ordered her previous book about the travel around France because I enjoyed this one so much. If you want something a bit lighter and interesting, and you have an interest in food and breakfast, and who doesn't, this is a really good book to read. So that is pretty much all I've got to say today. So have a good day, and we'll see you next time.